And we celebrate today because we had no power in and of ourselves to become righteous or right before God. We didn't have the opportunity on our own will and our own efforts and our own work to have right standing in view of God the Father in His holiness. But through one man's purity and holiness and blameless, spotless, pure life that was lived through His obedience and His willingness to endure the cross, you and I can be made righteous again. My favorite verse in the entire Bible is Romans chapter 5, verse 8, because I think it conveys both the love of God, but then the willingness and the sacrifice of Jesus so simply. It says this in verse 7 into verse 8. It says, "For while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly." The verbiage that while we were still weak, before we were made strong, before we were made right, before we were brought into light, before we were rescued, before we were saved, while we were still ungodly in nature and character and actions, for one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would dare even to die. But God shows His love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us.